Back to our Copenhagen coverage right now. The COP15 host Denmark is considered a world leader in wind energy production. In fact, the EIA says that country gets roughly 20% of its electricity from wind generation. And that is a fitting piece of the Danes' energy portfolio, since Danish scientist Paul Lecour built the very first wind turbine to generate electricity back in the 1890s. This afternoon, Clean Sky's Lee Patrick Sullivan is giving you a rare up-close look at an offshore wind farm, and he reports that it took more than just scientific discoveries for the Danes to blow past the rest of the world in the wind sector.
High above the Bella Center in Copenhagen, where the climate talks are taking place, world leaders are greeted by an enormous wind turbine. It's more than a commercial for the company Vestas. Denmark wants to advertise to the world their commitment to wind. Denmark's only electricity supplier, Dong Energy, says the country is still heavily reliant on fossil fuels, but is looking at wind as one solution.
One of the possibilities we have in this country is we have a lot of wind, and therefore we started developing the wind as an energy supplier.
And wind has been very good for Denmark. The Danish company Vestas is the world's largest producer of wind turbines. Wind makes up the third largest part of Denmark's economy, and it's where the country gets more than 20% of its electricity. The Danish wind model has caught the attention of U.S. officials.
So there are quite a few projects that are on the drawing boards, and I think over the next several years we will see quite a few projects like this throughout the offshore waters of the United States. So this is very important for us to come out here to see these facilities, to understand a little bit about what it took to get them going, take those lessons back home.
But Denmark's wind model didn't happen in a vacuum. It got a lot of help from the Danish government. Copenhagen covers 30% of investment costs and provides loan guarantees for wind projects. Also, Dong, which is 75% owned by the Danish government, has to buy wind electricity at a premium cost. And the Danish people pay hefty energy taxes that are then funneled back into research and development for wind energy. It's a recipe that has allowed the Danes to become world leaders in wind, and wind advocates say the lack of U.S. wind policy has kept the United States on the sidelines.
The only policy we've ever had in the U.S. is having a tax credit that is, that basically they let expire every other year. So no manufacturers want to come, on the long-term basis, and people don't know, what the target, the utilities don't know what the policy is going to be. So we get a national policy in place. We believe that we have, and all our experts, all our companies say that we have such a great resource that that policy alone will help drive the development towards 2030. 30%.
Even with turbines dotting both the shore and skyline, it's not a silver bullet. Those farms have to be backed up with a more reliable source of energy.
So wind is good because it doesn't pollute, but it's bad because it's so unstable. Sometimes there's a lot of it, sometimes there's nothing. So we have to find new ways to deliver reliable energy to our customers, even though such a high proportion is based on wind.
One of those new ways is the development of waste-to-energy plants. This incinerator in the shadows of an offshore wind farm burns the trash of Copenhagen, providing baseload electricity for wind. Because Denmark is a small country, land is scarce, so the majority of wind energy comes from offshore. If the United States hopes to get 20% of its electricity generated by wind, experts say it would take more than 250,000 wind turbines. Currently, there are no offshore wind farms off the coast of the U.S., but the Danes are confident they are coming.
We are seeing a lot of interest. For instance, the Cape Wind project that now seems like they have a so-called PPA, power purchase agreement, in place. We see other projects in US that are very mature, and we do expect to see some offshore wind farms being built around US.
Vestas already has 2 wind turbine manufacturing plants in the United States, with 2 more in the works. And before the sun sets on the Copenhagen talks, the Danes want the world to know its wind technology could be one answer to reducing CO2 emissions. Now, the folks at Vestas say by the year 2050, offshore wind will account for 20% of Europe's electricity needs. In the icy waters of the Østrund off the coast of Copenhagen, I'm Lee Patrick Sullivan, Clean Skies News.